What's up, everybody? This is William from For the Billions over here on the Black Man in Tech channel. Thank you guys so much for rocking with me and on this channel. Really do appreciate every single one of you. All right, so remember, guys, how I was talking about Adobe acquiring Figma? Well, there are some more articles coming out. We're going to be looking at an article from the Wall Street Journal where we're going to be discussing how there is a lot of fear going on for a lot of people who use and utilize Figma, which is an industry standard for graphic design and also UI, UX design, and it also helps with getting developers the code a lot faster, especially for the UI developers and front end developers who are out there. So Figma is a great tool, but there are a lot of people who are skeptical of how Adobe is going to treat their already existing fan base or the clientele that utilize Figma. So we're going to go ahead and get into this article. Really do appreciate every single one of you for rocking with me. And also, there's a card at the top right corner that will link to the very first video where I was talking about this. So with that being said, I'll see you guys in the article.
I love the game. I love the hustle, man.
All right, so here is the article here. This is from the Wall Street Journal. This is titled, "For Some Figma Fans, Adobe Deal Triggers Fears Over Innovation Pricing." All right, because you guys already know the pricing for Adobe Suites is outrageous a lot of the time because you have to pay so much money for the Adobe Suite, the Creative Cloud. You have a lot of products that Adobe uses that is really good, but they have a subscription base that you have to pay for on a monthly basis. In addition to that, when Photoshop was out there and Adobe Illustrator was out there before they went to this subscription model, it was completely unaffordable for the majority of people because it used to be like $1,000 for this software to be able to do graphic design and to be able to. Some people used to use Photoshop for like their websites and all kinds of different things that people use Photoshop for, creating digital artwork. There's a lot of things. Photoshopping people's photos and creating GIFs. There's a lot of things you can do with Photoshop, but the pricing of it was so outrageous that they actually switched to this subscription model to be able to be more affordable for people. But imagine how much money you're going to be spending over years of paying for Adobe Creative Cloud, especially if you're just a hobbyist and your company is not paying for it for you. If your company is paying for it for you, then go right on ahead. But it is extremely expensive to be paying for Adobe products or the subscription model, especially if you're getting the whole suite or the whole Creative Cloud. And in addition to that, if you're just like a hobbyist, right, or just somebody who is just doing this just because. So let's go ahead and, of course, also there are a lot of different alternatives to Adobe products or Adobe Creative Cloud. So we may go through that if you guys are interested. I just want to kind of point that out too. All right, so let's go ahead and get into this article. So it says, some customers took to online town halls to voice concerns. The first impression was probably apprehension. All right, so let's go ahead and see this picture of Figma. Adobe said it would acquire Figma for $20 billion in cash and stock last week. So they are actually pulling out of their own stock. Adobe's pulling out of their own stock in order to purchase Figma. The last highest acquisition that Adobe actually did was only $4 billion. So that's to put that into perspective, that they paid an extra $16 billion and took out of their own stocks in order to purchase Figma. Right, so it's a great W for Figma, and I'm sure that they are happy. Let's see if the fans are going to be happy after we hear what Adobe is going to say. All right, so let me just share the screen. So it says Adobe Inc.'s planned acquisition of collaboration software maker Figma has sparked concern among its tight-knit community of users. Let me zoom in just a little bit. All right. After Adobe announced it would acquire the company for $20 billion in cash and stock last week, Figma users said they are worried about potential pricing changes and a slowdown in innovation on the platform. That is very true. Adobe has a lot of different products that they're also working on as well that could impact the quality of the of Figma, of the software. So let's see what they say. Some compared it to Adobe's acquisition of Macromedia in 2005, which ultimately resulted in the discontinuation of some of the web development software providers' key products. I think people are a bit worried that Figma might go the same way, said Tag. I think that's how you pronounce it. Taj McCarthy, Chief Design Officer at digital product consulting firm Elsewin. Figma has a loyal customer base of digital creators that appreciates its price, accessibility, the pace at which it rolls out new features, and how responsive it is to community feedback. That is very true. With a large company, it's usually harder to be able to speak with them. In addition to that, they also have different sprints or different release models for Adobe than they would have with Figma. Figma was mostly just only focused on that specific software alone. So that's why you have the new features coming out as frequently as they did. So you will have Adobe's budget being in a contributing factor as to why new features would not be able to come in, and then also just the bureaucracy of a larger company as to why a lot of these features may not come in and why it may affect the quality of Figma. Figma's starter plan is free to use. Exactly, yes, that is a great selling point. So it's easy for people who may be hobbyists or may not know whether or not if they want to invest in a product such as this. I mean, like a 7-day free trial is cool and all, but nothing is better than a free tier that you can utilize to be able to, be able to do what you need to do, right? You have a starter plan that's free to use, and you can pretty much do a lot of different things with Figma. There may be some features that you won't be able to use, but this is just it's great for people who are trying to get themselves into graphic design as well. And then there's probably a lot of businesses created off of just having this free tier with Figma, right? So shout out to people who are on Fiverr who utilize Figma as well. In many instances, users switched over to it from Adobe products for those reasons. See that? So Figma was an alternative to Adobe Creative Cloud, and then now you cannot escape it. Figma and Adobe, which is known for products like Photoshop and Illustrator, said they plan to keep these elements and allow Figma to continue operating autonomously under the deal. Okay, so they're going to be doing this whole thing where they're going to keep their autonomy. So Figma may still keep their name. They're just going to be under the Adobe brand. And yeah, there's a lot of companies who do this, who will actually keep their autonomy. They'll keep their name. They'll keep the way their process is. The only thing is that they want to integrate between Figma and Adobe, which that is actually another initiative as well, where they collect data. There's a lot of different things that actually happens when these acquisitions come into place, such as security. You have data engineers who come into place, which is me. I'm a data engineer. You have people who work with the UI, who also have other work to work with as well. So there's a lot of different jobs that actually come from uh, acquisitions of companies, and then there's also a lot of jobs that are lost because of acquisitions of companies. So something is kind of like a double-edged sword with stuff like this. Both companies said they are aware of user concerns and hope they can prove them wrong in the coming months and years. The first impression was probably apprehension, said Elsewin's Mr. McCarthy, and just concern that we'll end up with a tool that takes on the same speed and the same kind of bloat as we were used to back when Adobe was the tool of choice. That is also another great point that Mr. McCarthy just made, is that Photoshop is a large software that you have to download on your computer or use the Creative Cloud. It's a tool that, hey, it's going to take up a lot of space, and it crashes pretty frequently. It does load pretty slowly. With Figma, it is an online web tool that you don't have to download, and you don't have to put it on your actual computer, so it's not going to be as slow as a Photoshop would be. It goes as fast as your internet will go with Figma. All right, Elsewin said it started using Figma in 2019, and since then it has become the collaborative hub of the entire company, replacing a number of existing tools. Yes, the fear is not necessarily that it's going to get worse, is that it's not going to get better anymore. So, to me, that means it's going to get worse. All right, to me, that's what that says. Right, if it doesn't get better, it's going to get worse. He added that when Adobe acquired Macromedia, those tools, while not perfect, were still innovating. That innovation stalled post acquisition, and some of the tools, including Flash, were ultimately discontinued. Oh, so Macromedia is the one who created Flash. I remember Flash back in the day. You guys remember Flash when we used to use it? I don't know if you guys ever used I used to play Neopets and stuff like that. Back in the day, man, you had to have Flash. All right, so let's see. Scott Belsky, let me see, Chief Product Officer of Adobe Creative Cloud, said the company is owning the fact that there are things that it has and hasn't done well related to previous acquisitions. While the Macromedia deal was nearly 20 years ago, Mr. Belsky pointed to more recent acquisitions such as Behance and Frame.io. Oh, Behance got acquired by somebody. Okay, that's interesting. I gotta look into that. I used to look at Behance and Dribble.com for inspiration on UI UX design and front end development as well. They also just have like some great design and artwork on Behance and Dribble. Never heard of Frame.io before though. All right. Chris Marsh, research director at S&P Global Market Intelligence, said that users' concerns, while valid given Adobe's history, are probably a little overblown. He added that Adobe has enough sense not to do what it has done with previous acquisitions, in part because of the massive price tag. You wouldn't acquire a competitor for $20 billion just to essentially not have that competitor anymore. Yeah, that's a lot of money. That's true. I can understand that. Figma said it has hosted town halls on Twitter aimed at addressing some of the community concerns around the acquisition. Since last year, the social media site has become a popular forum for Figma users to voice their worries. Actually, I was in one of those calls, those town hall calls that was on Twitter. Um, I should do a video on that too as well. Just give you guys a breakdown of what actually happened. But let's continue on with this article. I saw quite a few concerns that the prices are going to be raised. The senior director of brand at video messaging company Loom said this, a Figma customer. Okay. So they added there's probably some wiggle room to bring the prices up a little bit and still have it be a very accessible price point. See, they're already discussing bringing up the price, right? Where the standard plan or the starter plan was free, they're like, oh, we can bring up the price a little bit. See, they're already discussing bringing up the price. That's the only thing that I really just, that's the biggest thing I really don't like about the acquisition. All right, so Elsewin pays 3 to 4 times more for Adobe products than it does for Figma products. Currently, the company has 2 Adobe licenses and 49 Figma licenses. He said, if Figma, hold on, if Figma price points approach some of the existing price points for Adobe products, our costs would go through the roof. Recognizing that we are in an unpredictable inflammatory environment, we currently have no plan to change Figma's pricing. All right, so that's Figma's spokesperson that said this. Okay. All right, let's see what else it says. People are mostly afraid to lose that community aspect. Let's see. People are afraid that the same is bound to happen with Figma. All right, mostly talking about probably the macro media. Oh, and then okay, so Adobe acquired Behance. Okay, that's what happened. Oh yeah, I did. Yeah, I've heard of that before. Yeah, so Behance is owned by Adobe. Both Adobe and Figma said that the strong community element is part of what made Figma so valuable and attractive to Adobe, and they hope it can remain. See, when they say stuff like they hope it can remain, hope is something that you can't control. All right, so it doesn't give me too much confidence in this statement. I do think that we can continue to have this amazing community, but I think it's something that we have to prove. As this is Figma's chief product officer. Now it's our time to show them. All right, cool. So that was the end of this article. All right, guys. So let me know what you guys think about this acquisition, and do you have any apprehensions, or do you feel that maybe this may lead to Figma being in a worse position because Adobe is acquiring it? Do you think that it's going to lead to you having to find another alternative outside of Adobe and Figma in order to be able to do the same things that you were able to do before? Or do you think that it is going to be a good thing that Adobe is going to do Figma right, and that you'll be able to have a lot more features coming out a lot more frequently? Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. I would love to read them in the comment section. With that being said, please go ahead and like, share, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And then also hit that bell notification icon if you want to be notified whenever I make new videos on YouTube. Thank you all so much, and I will see you all on the next video.